Hello, this is Mike from Dimensional Walking, and today I am going to do another video. And this video is going to be about one of my mini expeditions I've taken over the many years around the United States and a little bit into Canada occasionally. It's more stumbling into Canada than actually purposefully. This particular one happened. It was about 300 miles, I guess it would be east of Seattle, Washington, just south of the Canadian border this time. And it was a beautiful area. You know, it was kind of a natural reserve, and it was a lot of lakes, a lot of mountains, etc. Had Bigfoot there, UFOs, and there was many great tales of strangeness, high strangeness there. So I'm going to share one story with you. Actually, I guess it was two stories. One story came from what I would consider a very trustworthy and honorable person. And so I feel really good about the source of this, okay? And I want to tell you, I'm very particular about my sources because there's all kinds of crazy stuff out on the internet. But this is a personal experience, and I talked to this guy in person, and it was a pretty interesting story, to say the least, okay? So anyways, this guy's name was George. I'm just going to give him his first name. And him and his wife, they were going up a trail in this general area which I was talking about. And we actually met George in the area. And him and his wife were going down this windy trail. And all of a sudden, George, I think, let me tell you this, George was in front of his wife, okay, just so you understand. And all of a sudden, George saw this person. He thought it was a person. He thought it was, it looked like a very large red-headed person, okay? And he said its hair was parted down the middle, okay? And the interesting thing, this bush was about 6 foot high, he estimated. In fact, he went back later just to measure it. And he said the bush was 6 foot, and this human, I guess he's going to call it now, was 2 feet above that. Okay? So that makes it about 8 foot, right? Okay. So anyways, this, whatever it was, this human, at first what he thought, took one look at George, kind of looked and stared at each other for a few minutes, and then this being took off. Well, George pretty much realized this was not a human, okay? Even though to him it kind of looked like a Viking. That's what he said. It looked like a Viking to me, a big Viking. And anyways, this, I guess we're going to call it what it probably was, a Bigfoot, took off and ran down the trail. And kind of disappeared, I guess. But George, being a very curious person, we'll call him Curious George, he followed, okay? I think his wife kind of stayed back. He walked up the trail further. And he went off the trail a little bit, and he noticed that there was this area, kind of an opening. And in this opening, there was this, looked like a bed of spruce, okay, meaning somebody had laid some branches down in spruce. And he also noticed, strangely enough, that he kind of poked around on the beds, and he noticed that there was fecal matter between the piles, like somebody went to the bathroom. I know it sounds gross. Went to the bathroom and just, instead of, obviously didn't have a toilet, so they just put some more of this spruce branches over it, okay? And who knows, I guess they would sleep there or whatever. But anyways, so there's George. And let me just stop for 1 minute right there, okay? Because I want to tell you one of my own personal stories of a similar situation, okay? So this time, I lived in Tucson, Arizona for, golly, I guess about 3 years, okay? And I would go up to Mount Lemmon, which, if anybody knows the area, Mount Lemmon is just kind of, I guess it'd be north of Tucson. And it's a beautiful place. You drive up this really cool road. And anyway, so I used to explore Mount Lemmon quite a bit. So one time I was exploring, kind of got off of the trail quite a ways, and ran across, I saw from a distance, like a lean-to it looked like. And so I said, oh, well, sometimes Boy Scouts build these things as kind of a merit badge thing. So anyways, I thought, well, this has got to be what it was. This was a pretty big one, though, I have to say. It was probably, let me see, it was probably 10 foot high at the highest point of the lean-to. And it probably was, probably 8 foot wide and probably say around 12 foot long. Okay. And I kind of paced it off after, actually before I got into it, I took a close look at it. So anyways, I went in here and I kind of got in and everything seemed to be relatively fine. I didn't notice anything, but as I got in there farther, I kind of noticed a really poopy smell, kind of an awful smell. And the farther I got into it, it was really terrible. Anyways, on the floor also, there was these branches. Okay, and these were pine branches. I don't think they were spruce. They were pine branches. But it was sort of the same concept. It seemed that there was stuff, maybe in this case, again, poop, that were in between some at least 2 or 3 layers of this, making this up. Well, it dawned on me when I'm in there, probably 10 minutes, this has to be a Sasquatch, just like George, because actually I found this after I had done the little mini expedition up in the area where George said he had found this house. I guess we'll call it the Bigfoot house. Well, all of a sudden I realized I was in a Bigfoot house too. And I have to tell you something. When you're in something and you realize it's somebody else's house, it really freaks you out. I was totally freaked out. I said, oh my God, I couldn't get out of there fast enough. Because I know the worst thing you can do is go into somebody's house. If it's a human, if it's a Bigfoot, if it's anything, even in another type of animal, they just don't want you in a cave, okay? They don't want you in their place, and I don't blame them, okay? So I got the heck out of there. No doubt about it, I was in this Sasquatch place, just like George was, okay? So, anyways, so I was going to go back and tell you a little bit. When George and the Bigfoot Viking, Mr. Viking would call him, saw each other, George said right away it looked like Mr. Viking was actually doing something bad. He just had a look on his face like, oh shit, I got caught. Now, I don't know if he just got caught looking at George and his wife coming up the trail. We're never sure about that. George couldn't speculate on it, but it was that crazy look on his face. And the other thing he said is that this animal, it was Bigfoot, actually smiled. And he said it was the weirdest smile he's ever seen. It was huge. It was like his smile was 2 feet wide. It wasn't, he said, but it looked so different. And he just showed, and there was quite a few teeth he showed. I don't know if that was sort of a way he showed, that don't mess with me or something, because he showed all his teeth. And he had a big mouth. He said, this is really crazy. So, anyways. So George was in there, of course, and he realized the same thing, that he was in the house of Sasquatch. And so anyways, that was really it for George. He got out of there. Him and his wife, went down the hill, went to actually the location, and he really looked at the bush and realized it would have been 8 foot. This creature, Bigfoot, was at least 8 foot tall. And he was really, when he realized all this, some of the stuff happened so fast. But when you get a chance to sit back and realize what happened, it's pretty incredible that your mind just starts swimming. It's the same thing when I was at Mount Lemmon. The other thing we came across was a prospector, which told him he had said he had seen some Sasquatch in the area. He had some little stories he told, and I'm not going to relate those to you because I think George's story is more interesting, actually. One of the things he did show us, he had a huge rock, and he was carrying it. He had it in a backpack, and he pulled this rock up, and it was really, really a very, very heavy rock. And he said he claimed that It was platinum and gold and silver. He said he called it the super mix of wealth is what he called it, and he claimed that he knew where there was this whole mountain of this stuff. Okay, and we don't know if he was telling the truth or not. It was really quite interesting, but anyways, he had the Sasquatch stories. He talked about this. And the reality is, if you ever know any, I've known a few other prospectors, they typically aren't going to take you to their mountain of gold, okay? So I thought it was pretty hilarious that he even brought it up. But I thought he was really an interesting character. And so that was probably it. We go on these mini expeditions. I've gone on them all around the United States. And there's some really amazing stories. And a lot of them have to do with Sasquatch and paranormal. And a lot of the witnesses and people we've talked to, I've talked to, or when I'm with somebody else, we both talk to, are pretty incredible. Some of them I believe 100%, like George's story, and probably I believe 5% of the prospector's story. But they're really interesting stories nevertheless. So that's about it. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.